Be intentional. Take action now. Welcome to the Humanscape podcast, where we help business leaders develop the cultural landscape for tomorrow's success. In a world that is wobbly, we're here to help you create a strong cultural foundation for your business. And it's all about bringing your values to life, elevating people to perform at their best, creating a strong strategic plan, and offering lifelong learning opportunities. Are you ready to bring work to life and life to work? We are. Let's talk. Welcome back to another episode of the Humanscape podcast from HumanWorks Aid. I'm Sean Golias, the Thought Catalyst with HumanWorks Aid, and I'm excited to be co-hosting today with Sarah Marshall from the team. Today, we're talking with Kelsey Brenn, the Chief People Officer at St. Augustine Preparatory School, a K-4 through 12 school serving nearly 2,400 students on Milwaukee's South Side, and soon expanding to the North Shore. In today's episode, we're discussing what it takes to bring strategy to life, from hiring and leadership development to how big goals connect across an organization. We'll explore how the St. Augustine Prep team grows leaders, strengthens culture, and attracts new talent as they continue to expand. And I have to say, we're a little extra excited today to chat with Kelsey because the new St. Augustine Prep campus will be just down the road from us here on the North Shore of Milwaukee.
A CFO turned Chief People Officer, Kelsey is a founding leader of St. Augustine Preparatory Academy. In her current role, she oversees teams in fundraising, HR, marketing, community outreach, and family engagement. In all of her roles, one of her favorites is coaching the high school debate team. Kelsey has been recognized for her work through awards like 40 Under 40, Milwaukee Business Journal's CFO of the Year, and United Way's Philanthropic 5. So here we go. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
So, Kelsey, can you share more about how your work has grown and what part of your work feels especially meaningful to you right now?
Sure. Yeah, I've been at Aug Prep almost 10 years now, and a lot has changed in that time. When we started, we were on this kind of vacant, abandoned property in a tiny little house with the dreams of starting a school. And now on the South Side, we have two massive buildings, almost $100 million in investment, and 2,400 students and just over 300 staff. So we have grown a lot. And when I started, I was CFO, but as a very small team, just a few people, we wore a lot of hats. And so I quickly became all the behind the scenes business, which included things like HR. Hiring the right teachers was a real priority for us. And I had coworkers who were really great at finding the right teachers, but it was my job to put the structure in place and make sure we, followed the law when we gave them offers and knew how to give them benefits. So everything in the beginning, from designing a benefit plan, I had to design a 401k plan, to, in true startup fashion, we went to pick out the flooring together. We went to pick out the students' desks. So these days we're a lot bigger. We have the two buildings on the South Side, and as you mentioned, about $100 million investment on the North Shore to open another campus and serve more students. So a lot of my work has gone out of the day-to-day details. I have got teams who run with that and are exceptional, and more at the kind of visionary strategy level, making sure our entire organization is marching in the same direction.
All those hats, from desks to benefits. That's quite the range, Kelsey. So let's learn a little bit more about you. We like to get a sense of our guests by looking through a framework that we use called 3 Parts of the Mind. And Kelsey, when we mentioned that we use the Kolbe assessment, you said, I've taken that. There's somewhere in my past I've used that assessment that way. And what's unique about that assessment is that you only take it once because those results don't change over time. So your cognitive instincts are really sort of the forever of the foreverness of who you are. So we'll talk about that. And another unique thing I think we shared with you, your results on that Kolbe Index is the same as a member of our team, AJ Cruzy on our team, which is kind of unique as far as how you might take action. But when we think about 3 parts of the mind, it's also very important to say, yes, you may have similar instincts on how to take action, but cognitively and effectively, you're both going to be quite different. So let's start with the cognitive.
Yeah, Kelsey, we learned in your bio that you coach the debate team at Aug Prep, which takes a really specific skill set. So it got us curious. Do you have a hidden talent or a skill that people would never guess, or something you could teach a mini class on aside from debate?
I don't know that that's a hidden talent, right? And I always prided myself on being the accountant who could communicate well. I grew up in speech and debate and was really competitive in those even in high school. And so public speaking was always my not so secret talent that, especially as an accountant, many people didn't expect the person deep in their spreadsheets to want to get up on stage and present. And so that's one area I've taught before and could give many a conversation on. And that's translated even into other types of communication. I love to write. My mom was a journalist. And so just the way we communicate, whether that's like bridging numbers, like accounting is actually just communication. How do you communicate how a business is doing to people? Like so much of what you do leading people is about how you communicate it. So all those facets of communication are maybe my hidden talent, or not so hidden because it's part of my job.
Well, at the end of the podcast, Kelsey, I always like to highlight things that people said. And you've already said something that I have to repeat right now. You said accounting is communication. And that is such a cool thing, because if everybody thought about their focus or area of expertise and the need of how that's communicated, it's just so important for strong cultures and to really elevate that touch point in a business. So I just want to highlight that right now for our listeners. Accounting is communication. But I won't stay on cognitive. Let me go to the effective part of Kelsey. I wanted to focus on what you do. What do you love, or what do you really like? What working with students? What jumps out at you? What's the number one thing that you just love about working with students?
You are constantly challenged when you are working with students, whether that is a 4-year-old, and I have a 4-year-old, and so whether it's just trying to get him in the car or working with high schoolers, they're always going to say what they mean and challenge your opinion. And that helps you learn. So like when I think about what I love to learn. I love to learn and grow. I'm always reading. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm always pushing myself. I ran an Ironman. I like marathons. Like, let's go a little harder. Let's do a little more. What more can I do? And so I love learning, and part of this role, and even just being in a school, that's so fitting. Things are always changing day to day when you lead people, right? No day is the same. And the same should be true for our students. This shouldn't be every day I show up at school and it looks the same. And so building a culture of constant learning and constant growth aligns with who I am and what I love to do.
I love that. And then finally, that third part of the mind, that cognitive instinct around your Colby. If you're faced with a problem or challenge, what is your go-to place that you begin that?
Well, my team would tell you that if we're going to jump into a problem, the first words they have to say are, slow down, Kelsey. I jump in, let's go, let's try this. I'm throwing things at the wall. So I like to lead in a very visionary way, and I like to imagine new possibilities. We're not stuck in, we've always done it this way, or, oh, what about that rule? Like, let's try this. Oh, will that work with that rules? I don't know. Let's figure it out. And so really just jumping in, moving fast, trying new things. If we fail, we learn from it. We try again. That's how we want our students to grow and learn. And that's how I lead as a leader. It can take some getting used to. And so I even have a new team member who's starting, and having her chat with some of my other team members of like, here's how to slow Kelsey down. But I really like to jump in and get things done, get things moving, especially in the world I work in. Kids can't wait. They can't wait a couple years for us to work through a better way to do it. Let's try it. Let's try it and see how it goes, and let's learn from it and keep improving.
And do you think your passion from learning and wanting to know more really feeds and enables you to jump in that way?
Absolutely. They're interconnected. I don't like doing the same thing over and over. I actually, when you align whether it's Colby or DISC or PI, whatever personality, when you align that with the typical accountant, I'm apparently a terrible accountant because, right, accountants usually are steady and thoughtful, and they follow the rules. And while I could do that, I can lean into that, and I did it when I need to. My nature is much more like, maybe we bend the rules, maybe we try this, and work in the gray.
Understanding someone's cognitive strengths can really shape how teams function. You mentioned you're bringing somebody new on soon. When we first connected, you mentioned that having the right people is the secret sauce at Aug Prep. So your team has a rigorous application and hiring process. I know predictive index you just mentioned is part of that process. I just want to dig a little bit deeper into that. How do you use that PI tool to identify and bring in people who aren't just a fit for the role cognitively, but also a fit for the culture at Aug Prep?
There's a great shortage of teachers in today's world. So there are definitely schools where you can walk in one day and walk out with an offer. And we're not that place. We really want to make sure we're a fit for the employee and that the employee is a fit for us. This goes two ways. And so we have designed a very rigorous process that can take weeks to make sure you get a few at-bats to really see that this is the place for you. So we mix a quantitative and a qualitative. So there's my accounting brain mixing with my jump into it brain. PI does give us some measure in a more quantitative fashion to compare candidates against one another. We never have a PI like, you must meet this bar or it has to be exactly this. It is a tool to help us make decisions. And so if we have 5 great candidates with pretty similar resumes and skill sets, and we see 2 of them are a 5-star fit on their predictive index kind of behavior patterns or their cognitive, I might move those ahead before the other 3. So that's helping me screen, but it's never a decision point. It helps me make decisions and even helps me once they're hired. Maybe they were only a 3 out of 5 on the behavior fit because this one skill set, maybe they are a little too slow in making decisions and we want someone more willing to jump in. Then I can coach them and lead them knowing that. And so our process is designed to get you in this place, see it in action, really get to know you, get to know things like your faith, which is important to us as a religious organization, your heart for kids. You gotta love kids in this work. And so if you're just in it, just another paycheck, this is not the place. We're going to do all we can to serve our kiddos. So we mix those qualitative and quantitative traits. We have like a qualitative kind of rubric of the main things we're looking for and what they might look like, how you might answer a certain question to kind of help align different leaders as they interview. And then we also use that PI tool on top of it. Again, a variety of tools to help make a good decision about bringing the right people in. Because it's a lot easier to bring in the right people than have to just bring in anyone and get the wrong people off the bus.
Absolutely, Kelsey. Thanks for explaining that a little bit. And Sean, you probably heard this when Kelsey was talking about the predictive index tool, how it's something that's part of the hiring process that helps inform their decisions moving forward with candidates. Very similar things, Kelsey, can be said about the Kolbe Right Fit tool that we use with our clients. So it's a tool that measures the cognitive part of the mind, of course, as we just talked about. But we use that when we hire, we look at all 3 parts of the mind. And this Kolbe Right Fit tool is a similar concept to the predictive index hiring tools that you mentioned. Would you add anything about Right Fit, Sean?
I would just say it's all about, and I think you're saying that you have this rigorous process and a very intentional process, because the whole point is that organizations need to do some intentional actions and use tools to give them more confidence so you have that right fit person. Like you said, you want to invest in that upfront, not on that back end if there's a coaching kind of thing. And one thing we also like about Kolbe, and I think you've said it with predictive index, is it also gives you really valuable information on how to coach the person after hire. Because it's not always perfect fits, but there are right fits. And then it gives you some ways to coach based on the role or in the environment that way.
Yeah, and even to sort of like coach yourself, I think, for lack of better terms, how do I jumpstart this relationship with this person, knowing what their Kolbe A index is, knowing those results? One thing that stood out to us in our exploratory conversation was how you get ahead of talent needs and really focus on building that talent pipeline for the organization. Are there any success stories or moments around that stand out to you, just around that, building that pipeline?
We really are thoughtful about pipeline because it's someone who already knows us. Generally, if we can build an internal pipeline, someone who fits our culture, we can usually teach skills or help them acquire them outside, but that culture fit is what's so important. So we've built a variety of pipelines to grow as a leader at Aug Prep, and we really value growing each person. Again, fits our culture. We're teaching kids to learn and grow. Why wouldn't our adults be learning and growing alongside them? So whether that's like we have a benefit, everyone gets $2,500 per year to spend on college courses or conferences. We also have designed a couple structural programs. Like we actually just presented this week to our high school students about our program where they can, if they're looking at teaching, they can get a mentor with one of our current teachers here, they get a scholarship and then they get internships over the summer. So hopefully they're coming back, our students, and teaching and working here. In the same way, we think a lot about people who have maybe had another career. If you were an engineer for 20 years and now want to think about teaching engineering, you're a great engineer, but being a teacher is different. So we offer a fellowship to learn the art of teaching, to shadow, to get some more intentional coaching and development. And even if you look at my leadership team, 60% of our leadership team were internal promotions. So just offering those opportunities, we use a leadership night or leadership retreats to coach, to build skills, to kind of get a common dialogue about what leadership at Aug Prep looks like. So all of those come together to grow our people. Because again, if we're getting the great people in, we want to keep them here and we want them to keep growing as, in this case, our organization continues to grow and change. It has grown and changed a lot. So if I think of people who started with us in year one, there's a couple. A teammate of mine who was a security guard to start is now the director of security across 2 giant campuses, managing a team of like 8 people, a security dog, external relationships with police. Another teammate of mine started as the only social worker in our school. Now she not only manages a social work team, I think of about 8, but manages our clinical team. So we have a therapist on site. So all of those were roles we wouldn't have known we even had years ago. But as we grew people and saw their skill set and that aligned with the need in the organization, we were able to make that match. So there's a lot of stories like that, or instructional aides who became teachers. We really love seeing our team grow.
Those are great. I want to stay on this development topic because we believe, everyone learns and we focus a lot on leadership development. And our approach, I believe we're very aligned that no matter where you sit in an organization, you lead from where you sit and you add value from where you're sitting, your perspective. Whether that's around values, whether that's around leading from a place of belonging, whatever it might be. You have a framework that I remember, and it was the Gather, Grow Guide. So, I'm always sort of thinking about ways to be really clear about what you believe in. Can you tell us a little bit more about your leadership development and how you use that framework to strengthen the organization?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have a leadership meeting tonight. So we'll stand together, all 50 of us leaders, so sort of managers and above. And one of my first slides is just a reminder, why are we here? Gather. So we gather as a team. We want to build that community. It's hard in schools. Principals, assistant principals, they're running all over. They don't have time for a meeting midday with me or with this leadership team. So time to intentionally gather and build that relationship. So much of great leadership is relationship. Grow, again, growing each individual there as a person in their skill set, but growing as a leadership team too, like a collective group of leaders. Gaining skills is important. And then as leaders, we're the ones guiding the organization, guiding the strategic plan of our organization. So if we keep our eyes on those 3 and we start, time together, this is what we're looking for, and we end time together saying, did we achieve that, and design the content in between to do so, that's how we're hitting our goals. But we try to bring in those leadership nights or our leadership retreats, bring in some external experts to teach on certain topics. Toolkit is a word we use a lot. Like there are a lot of frameworks to have crucial conversations or how to manage a meeting, things like that. And if we can give leaders different tools and let them take them and adapt them to what works on their team, we think they'll be stronger as well. But you're right. People lead from wherever they're at. We have a teacher program called Emerging Leaders. Like, I want my teachers to be teachers forever. Great teachers staying in the classroom has huge value for a school. And so offering them opportunities to be the leader on the 3rd grade team, be the leader in the math department are ways we can grow people and let them lead even in the position they're in for however long they're in it.
I love that. And you mentioned that you bring in outside experts and people to speak on topics. What do you see are capabilities or learning topics for leaders that you have focused on that you've seen really have helped the culture? And are there any that you're thinking about for the future that you're saying, this is a topic I know that is a challenge or an opportunity for us? We may not have figured it out yet, but I think it's a capability or a learning experience that we want to shoot for sometime in the future. So any strengths now that you've seen have really hit home, and any sort of future focus topics that are on your mind for our listeners?
I think as an organization, we're still only in our 9th school year. So we've grown a lot in just strategic planning. Like, we didn't have a strategic plan when we started. Now we have one, and it's common language. It has key facets. Everyone's kind of pointing in the same direction. We're clear on our goals. We know what we're working towards. So that structure of strategy, we've gotten a lot better at. One area we're always working on, I think every team can continue to work on, are those hard conversations. It's really difficult, especially when you care about people, to hold them accountable with firmness and with love to help them grow. And so we can talk about those all day. I can have speakers on those all day, but at the end of the day, you just got to do them. You got to practice them. You got to have them. And so that's an area I think you can continue to grow on anyone in, because it should never get easy. Still have those. My heart goes up. I get sweaty. I get nervous having crucial conversations. But as I think about where we're going as an organization and what we're focusing on, prioritization and making sure we're investing our resources, mostly our time, in the right places. There are so many good things we could be doing, so many things that can serve students. And if we're not clear on how they all point toward the mission and how they all layer, because sometimes you've got one team member who's doing this, which is, the HR focus for the year, and it's really good, but you didn't know that this team was doing this, and suddenly the individual teacher is getting hit with 7 different initiatives. So really trying to clarify those priorities, communicate them, and say no. Say, let's pause. Say, slow it down. We're not good at that. I'm not good at that because there's such an urgency to the work we do. And so that is, I think, one of the hardest decisions as a leader. And my CEO actually framed it as deciding between good and good is part of being a leader. Both are good options. And it's really hard to say no to a good thing. And I think our instinct as humans is we can do it both. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. And we have seen where that taxes people, where that taxes systems. And so we're really trying to think about, how do we slow down? How do we prioritize? And how do we help that trickle down through our teams who sometimes feel the pressure of doing it all, or what their priority is, not realizing what everyone else's priority is.
I love that. We talk a lot about, can we live with the worst result to help with priorities? You know what I'm saying? Right now, what does that look like? We want to understand that and have contingencies with that. But sometimes that really helps frame it to sort of say, yeah, we could live with that because we need the best result of these right now because it has higher impact.
Or sometimes, I want to make this process better, but I'm just going to maintain it this year. It's just got to be good enough. It's good enough. I can always find ways to improve, but some things you have to just leave.
Yeah, where are you going to put that effort and energy and that mental energy when you're trying to balance so much? How do you really redirect it and align on where that needs to happen? Really critical. And it sounds like you have your arms around that, are continuing to grow in that area.
You heard us talk about the cognitive part of the mind in today's 3 parts of the mind segment earlier in this episode. The only way to measure the cognitive part of one's mind is by taking the Kolbe A index. The Kolbe A isn't about personality or intelligence. It's about you in the zone, you adding your best value, you at your most creative, how you get things done when you're free to be yourself. At HumanWorks 8, we use the Kolbe A as the foundation to our talent optimization work with clients to help individuals and teams get the right people in the right role, build confidence, strengthen relationships, and improve performance. Want to know your unique result? Take the Kolbe A index and uncover how your mind naturally works for your best performance. Visit humanworks8.com/Kolbe, Kolbe, to learn more.
As far as your practice and leadership development around the meeting sort of framework, do you have a framework that you use for meetings? Our listeners always sort of say, is there one agenda? Is there 2? Does everybody do it differently? Do you have any thoughts, or have you found any key insights around how your leadership team handles meetings?
Especially, Kelsey, because you just said meetings are kind of hard to come by, right? You have to be super efficient with that time because it's very limited.
Another area we are in transition on and trying to grow and improve on. Personally, my leadership teams and the teams I oversee, I follow the Death by Meeting, Pat Lencioni's, really clarifying, is this a stand-up? Is this a tactical? Is this a strategy? And we do some of that as an executive or a senior leadership team. We have 1 day a month we set aside for time together. And so really trying to clarify, you put something on the agenda. We're going to talk about the arts strategy and how are we doing performing and visual arts. Is this something we're just visioning on? Is this something we're making a decision on? Are we debating? And so we actually, my teammate, the CFO now, who also has the dual brain of kind of how you think qualitatively and quantitatively, he actually drew up for us, and maybe we'll publish this in a book someday, kind of 9 different types of meetings that we want to have at Aug Prep. Is it the imagining meeting? Is it the decision-making meeting? And he has catchy names for each of them. And we're rolling that out to our leadership team. But I think all of that is just a way to say, name it. be really clear on what this meeting is for, what it should look like. And you can structure them differently. Like if we're trying to have a decision-making meeting and I'm getting crickets, I'm going to sit and say, you two are team A, you two are team B, you have 2 minutes, come up with your topics, let's debate. And maybe that's the debate coach in me, but healthy debate, healthy conflict will help us get to a decision. I don't necessarily need that in a meeting where we're just visioning and we're trying all these different things. I might structure that meeting differently and have way more of the like, let's do a gallery walk, right? And so if we know what kind of meeting we're having, we can try to build the way we have it to reflect that. And I think we sometimes just get caught in the trap, and this is true for so many, right? We got an agenda, we know what we're talking about, and you forget to think about how are we talking about it and how are we actually leading the meeting. So we're in process on that as well. And no secret sauce yet. Maybe someday we'll publish the book on the 9 types of meetings.
I think you'd have a winner there. You know, one of the books that I like about meetings and that we have referred to a lot, and maybe you're familiar with it, is Read This Before Our Next Meeting. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have heard it. I haven't,
Yeah, it's just a really short, kind of very straightforward. And we really help a lot of organizations sort of think well about that. Our best practice is having one meeting agenda no matter what the meeting is. And you making those decisions on what's happening in the meeting, but that no matter what meeting you walk into, you're using the same agenda. So everybody knows, yeah, you walk in, you know what's going to happen. We call it the waypoint meeting agenda. But I think those are really game changers. We work with Meyer Construction in Neenah, Wisconsin. They've developed their own through working with us called the Focus 45. What I like about that, they don't have hour meetings. All their meetings are 45 minutes, which is, gosh, I love that.
That's like one of those secrets everyone says, right? Only put 45 on your calendar, because if you have an hour, you always take it.
Exactly. And again, just how they focus and really are driving their agenda to really being clear on what's being covered and how it's being covered. We work with a lot of organizations, and you just mentioned the word about strategy and planning. We call it the way, helping an organization build the way. And I know there's an Aug Prep way as far as that goes. And you mentioned that is an area of continual learning. Are there any insights from how you are developing your strategic planning practice that would be good things for people to consider? And that could be what's working really, really well around that, getting your leaders involved, or a challenge you faced or where you've stumbled, because sometimes stumbles can also help people go, oh, yeah, we're kind of on the ground in that area too. Anything come to mind about how you're focusing on strategic planning?
Yeah, this year's theme actually that we rolled out to our entire staff is we're developing the Aug Prep way. And that's the Aug Prep way of great teaching and learning. That's the Aug Prep way of operational excellence. Because as a startup, you just sort of build it as it goes. And so 9 years in, we're very big, a lot bigger than we were. And we're recognizing we don't necessarily have the structure or the clarity unless it's sitting in my head or someone else's head. And so part of our goal around developing the way is as simple as put it on paper. And so the balance we're always wrestling with, and I'm sure other organizations do too, is that a 30-page standard operating procedure? Is that a 1-page summary of how we go about this? But we want that consistency, especially as we open our second campus. So you don't have to come call me and see what's in my head. You can quick pull up, like, what is the tone we use in this? What is the reason we do this type of conversation if someone is struggling? What does that look like? And so developing the way is putting to paper, and even as simple as putting it in a shared drive. Like you couldn't even find things sometimes, right? Because you build it and you throw it in somewhere, and years later you're like, where was that? And so we've really started transition to the organization, the structure of like, we know where things are. So when I bring someone new in, that's always a good gut check of how are we doing on this, right? Because if I have to be like, there's a document about that somewhere, I don't really know where. Okay, that means we probably need to organize this better. And if they're a month in, 3 months in, and they still didn't understand X or had never even heard about Y, we missed something. Something wasn't clear. It wasn't clear it was part of the way. And so even that, the new team member I'm bringing on, that helps me continue to catch our blind spots, but really just stopping and saying in his organization, hey, stake in the ground. It's time this year. Put your processes on paper, make some playbooks, have the links all in one place, put it all in a folder. I always joke, if you win the lottery tomorrow and you ride off on your new private jet, I want to know where to find things. And as it was, because we just grew over time and put things together, that wasn't the case. So much of our strategy is sort of the boring stuff right now. Like, organize it well so it's sustainable, so you don't recreate the wheel. We can better use our time on new and exciting ways to serve our kids and not trying to make a document again that I definitely had a few years ago.
So for somebody hearing about this St. Augustine Prep way and all the good things you're doing, if you had to sort of tell people, there's one thing you'd want them to know about this culture you're building and how you're thinking really intentionally around strategy and planning, leadership development, I'm sure even the student experience that way, what would you highlight as key points or key facets of this culture that are so important that you reinforce in a lot of different ways across the organization?
Well, and that's the beauty of working in a school. The Aug Prep way, as we say it, serving in love with courage, integrity, perseverance, and respect, is a statement we use for our kids, and it applies to all our adults, and it applies to their families, and it applies to the vendors we work with. And at the core of that is our values. What do we care about? What drives us? What do we want to see? We want kids to walk away from here, yes, able to get into college or have a great career, but if they're not good people, we didn't do our job. And so much of what we do day to day is grounded in those values. Perseverance can be make the document even though you don't want to. Courage is have the hard conversation with a teammate, even though it'd be easier to let it go. Integrity is holding firm to what we believe in or how we do things, even when someone says, how we can just skip around that. And so when you have that clear kind of mission value fit, it can ripple across all of the work you do, right? Even in accounting, which felt like such a air quotes boring, black and white kind of work. You do that because it is having integrity and it's clearly representing who you are as a business and how that, again, you're communicating how your business is doing. And so when we have a core virtue statement like that, it ripples through our strategy. And it's a good gut check, right? If you're trying to think of something new or plan something new, you say, does this align? You can even just stop and say like, oh, gut check. Does this align with the Aug Prep way? And if it's not, or if it's debatable, let's get that out first. And so just that clear statement, and I think really grounded in values. It's not a statement saying we do things the most efficiently or with the best ROI. Those are all part of it. But we care about hearts. We care about good humans and the future of our communities. And so much of that is grounded in values. So that's at the heart of the Aug Prep way. It's not just making nice playbooks. It's doing that because that allows us to grow our organization, better serve people, and be better souls out in the world.
And I love organizations we work with that have love as part of their values or their purpose. There needs to be more of that, I think, in any organization as far as thinking about that. I think serving with love really jumps out at me. And I want to highlight, talk about courage and perseverance. You're opening a whole new sort of location down the street. Talk about living that. You must feel that every single day.
We did not plan to be purchasing a college campus in the middle of constructing a $50 million building here. We had plenty going on. We were just coming out of the pandemic, right? COVID was a rough time. We're coming out of that. But this opportunity presented itself. And when we saw that campus and thought that could be apartments or a new strip mall, and we look at the state of Milwaukee and the future of our workforce in our community, there is such a need. And we really just felt called. And we debated that. Our board did, our leadership team. Is this the right choice? Will we sacrifice the good work we're doing? Can we do both? What do we have to slow down in order to add this? And so it was, a very courageous choice for our organization and for our founders to step forth in faith and say, we think people want this. We think people will come. We're testing that now. We have started enrollment. And so we get to see families who are excited about this. And that has been so beautiful to see. You break open the ground and especially with an organization like Cardinal Strict, which is almost 100 years old, there's a lot of feelings and memories and great work they had done. And so honoring that legacy, we talk a lot about the fertile ground. They had so many of the same values we do. But that's hard to rip down a bunch of buildings and start fresh and say what will best serve our community and our students, and to balance all that work, right? I have a lot of employees and students here who need my attention. And I also need to be planning for the next phase. And so that balance is hard, but it's fun. And we're not bored, and we're growing and learning every day, and we're going to be able to serve more kids, which is the end goal. More Milwaukee students need an exceptional school, and we want to be that for more kids. And now on the other side of town.
Kelsey, one thing I just have to call out that I love about Aug Prep is you're thinking about serving the community and meeting that need. We're seeing that so much with our education clients. And even, you talk about the core values and what you stand for and how it's not just something that's tucked inside the walls of the school buildings, but it's something that teachers and students know, and their families know, and members of the community know. We have Indian Community School is one of our clients, and they have their 7 sacred gifts. We work with Milwaukee College Prep, and they have their TREC values, TRECK. Those all stand for a different word, and their students know them, their families know them. It's just so important. When you're in an academic institution, whether you're on that instructional side or sort of that administrative side, the values are what bring it all together and help you share that externally. So I think that's really cool, and just something that we've seen even with early childhood education clients that we have. That's where you're coming together. That's where you're getting momentum, and that's how you're making such a big impact in the community, Kelsey. So gratitude to you and your team for doing that. I can hear the focus and the importance of the external community in everything that you're talking about with the Aug Prep way.
Time has flown, Kelsey. Is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to bring up about St. Augustine Prep?
We are so excited to be launching this new campus, so come visit us. We're offering tours. We're enrolling families. We have a couple hundred families already interested. It's still in the hard hat stage, but you can see it coming to life. There's carpet in certain buildings. It is going to be an exceptional physical campus, but more importantly, those values will be there. And we really believe in holistic. So a great academic experience, a rigorous academic experience, but also arts and athletics and clubs. That's where you learn the real life stuff, right? Like how I lead my team. So much of that came from the swim team and how I got along with my teammates and learned to grow there. And so we really believe kids learn in all facets of what they do on our campus. And it's something really special to get to found something new. Yeah, you get to wear a lot of hats. You try a lot of different things, but you get to serve families and really build those relationships early on. So we are just excited to connect with the community further, connect with future families and even future employees.
Everybody go experience St. Augustine Prep. I think that's what it is. It's an experience, both for people that work there, the students that live there, and the community and impact.
And it's a wow experience. I did a hard hat tour, Kelsey. It was several weeks ago now, but it was great. It was just so grand to be standing there while everything is being built up around you. You have a really great campus that's coming to life.
And I want to just, for our listeners, what 3 things jumped out at me from the conversation? I already mentioned one of them. I couldn't wait till the end to say that one. Kelsey said accounting is communication. I would take that farther. Technology is communication. No matter what department or place you are, can you rethink and do a new mindset about what you're doing and your expertise or what you're bringing? How do you communicate that? How do you make sure everybody's aware? How do you bring people into that picture? So I think that's a very unique way of thinking around communication and areas of a business. The second thing is you use the word rigorous to how you look at bringing in talent. And I would have our listeners think about that. If you look at your organization, would you call your practice rigorous? Because I think it needs to be, for all the reasons Kelsey was talking about, getting that right person in that right seat, doing the right things, and making sure it's a cultural fit as far as that goes. So you used a baseball analogy too. They get some at-bats to sort of different ways to sort of to try that way. So I would everybody sort of think about that. And Kelsey used words like qualitative as well as quantitative. So there's a lot of ways to elevate your practice around that. She currently uses the predictive index. We talked about using the Kolbe index. There are tools to help you get that confidence and help with making that process rigorous. So that's the second thing. And the third thing was your use of the word pipeline. I think you've reframed that for our listeners because many times they're thinking of a pipeline of an external pipeline. I think names in a database or something or contacts from the past. And you're saying it's an internal pipeline on how you are growing and building and having really great succession sort of strategies around growth of your leaders, But what really hit home was when you're saying we start students mentoring in our school, maybe for positions within our school. So not only are you learning, but then you're staying with the school. How can organizations take that thinking and apply it to how they're working with mentoring and new interns, whatever it might be? So I think that's a really key thing.
And Kelsey, I just want to go back. You mentioned those 50 rules. Aside from finding somebody on the Aug Prep team out in this greater Milwaukee community, because I will say the Aug Prep team is very well branded. I always know when there's somebody at a networking event or a community event. But aside from that, Kelsey, where can individuals go to find out more information about enrollment, about hiring? What's the best spot to direct them to?
Absolutely. And good swag is the key to strong teams, right? You got to have good shirts. So that never hurts. Visit our website is the first place I would go, www.augprep.org. I just had someone reach out to me on LinkedIn, interested in the school, like, find me, find us however you can. We have social medias out there now too. Any way you connect will get you to the right person. And we're just really excited to continue to grow our community and grow our school.
Well, Kelsey, thanks for joining this episode of the Humanscape podcast. We wish you the best. And now that we're neighbors, maybe we'll see more of each other in this area. How does that sound?
Come by anytime. Yeah, we'd love to see you. Thank you so much for the time.
You got it. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode. And everybody take care and have a great rest of your day.
We look forward to you joining in the conversation next time. Remember to subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts and learn more at humanworks8.com/podcast. And if you want to know what I'm wondering about each week, subscribe to my Wondering Wednesday newsletter on LinkedIn. Reach out to us if you need a partner to navigate your Humanscape or a speaker from our team who will inspire your people and challenge your leadership. It all starts in one moment. Let's bring work to life and life to work together. You got us.